And welcome back to the First and Goal podcast. My name is Lewis, and next to me, as always, is my beautiful co-host, Laraib, as we are here, finally, us two, picking who we think is going to win Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas, Kansas City Chiefs, San Francisco 49ers. All season, we've been picking every week, every game, and it has led us to this moment right here, picking the champion of the 58th NFL season, Laraib. I wouldn't have picked anyone else to be sitting here picking this game with, but now we are here. Penultimate episode of our season. Of course, we're going to break down the Super Bowl as well after that happens. But, a lot of stuff to get into in this game, Laraib. So you got anything before we head on into this?
I mean, it only felt like a few short days ago we were talking about week one of the NFL, and now here we are at the Super Bowl. A lot of ups and downs, a lot of missed podcasts, a lot of great views from you guys for the whole season. So thank you guys for sticking around with us. And without further ado, Lewis, let's go ahead and break down the Super Bowl.
All right, Laraib. So starting us off, we have the spread, 49ers favored in this game by 2.5 points. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to tell you who I like. Let me give some context first, actually. So I'm going to beat around the bush a little bit. So I am up by 2 in our postseason picks. Thank you, Kansas City Chiefs, for getting me here. And that has given me the freedom to allow me to select who I would select in this game. And I've been riding with the Chiefs week after week after week. Even after that loss to the Raiders, I stood here and said, I still believe in this team to come out of the AFC, and I think they will be in the Super Bowl. And here they are. Am I going to stick to my guns, or am I going to go with a 49ers team that is favored for a reason? They are favored in this game. But I am sticking with the Kansas City Chiefs. And the biggest reason why I believe, and we even talked about in our last episode when we, went over some of the lines and betting angles from this game, is I just think Vegas has the wrong read on this game. I think they're taking the season in total and looking at both teams and saying the 49ers are a more complete team. They've played more complete games and they have the better roster. When I just disagree from what I've seen purely in the playoffs and what I've seen in the past from both these teams come playoff time. And ultimately, it boils down, and we'll get into a lot in this game. But the reason I lean Chiefs, and it sounds maybe a little cliche, but coach quarterback, you're giving me Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes in the biggest stage in football where they have the experience advantage. They were here in this game last season, and they were in this game against this team not only 5 years ago, Laraib. So advantage, experience, quarterback, head coach, all the things that you would look at in high stakes games and where to put your trust, where to put your faith, and where some of you to put your money. And it is just a safe bet in this point of Mahomes' career to never bet against him. And I believe that. And I think in this game, there's just I can't put my faith in the Brock Purdy in this stage. He's had good moments, but ultimately I am going with Mahomes, the Chiefs, and this extremely underrated defense, which I don't think I'm going on a limb out here saying that this is the best defense in this game. So not only am I getting the best defense, I'm getting the best quarterback, best coach. I'm going with the Chiefs in this game, and we'll get into a lot more of the X's and O's football stuff, but that is my lean right now. Now the floor is yours. It
Now,
seems like I'll let you go. I'll let you go.
no, so it is hard to disagree with you when you come up with a line of -2.5 for the 49ers and say, it should be the Chiefs. You look at how this postseason has gone, like you mentioned. This Chiefs team, Lewis, they've battled, especially defensively. Think back to Miami where they held that team to only 7 points, and they go into Buffalo and they have to go to Baltimore. The effort they've displayed on the defensive side of the ball has been nothing short of tremendous. And then you flip it on over, you look at this Niners team, who's supposed to be the juggernaut coming out of the NFC. They've had to claw their way back into games against teams like the Packers and the Lions, in which we thought, they were miles ahead of. And so I agree with you that this line is a little confusing. But Vegas knows something always. The house always wins. And what the house is going to win in this game by is the 49ers win this game because like you mentioned to me right before we started this podcast, 5 times the amount of money has been put on the Chiefs money line than it has been on the 49ers money line. Now, we're not superstitious guys. We break down NFL. We just look what we see. We're not going to go into all the hullabaloo that surrounds what the Illuminati wants. But there is something to be said about fading the public, and this is that spot, Lewis. But let's get past all that and let's just go right into the game. And I'm going to start with my San Francisco 49ers. Even though I'm a Seahawks fan, I'm at least forcing me to root for the 49ers, Lewis. But it's my San Francisco 49ers, and it all starts with the best player on the field and Christian McCaffrey. You can tell me, Patrick Mahomes is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He might even be the best quarterback to play all time. But this season, it has been Christian McCaffrey. He's been willing this 49ers team to a lot of wins. Now, a lot of people say Brock Purdy should be in that MVP conversation, but a lot more people are clamoring for CMC to be in that conversation. And he's just been a difference maker ever since he's gotten here in San Francisco. And now we've talked about this. I talked about this especially last week or 2 weeks ago for the Ravens. They should have ran the ball a lot more than they did to beat that Chiefs team. And now Kyle Shanahan going to his third Super Bowl. Does he want to put that pressure on Brock Purdy? You think back to the one against the Kansas City Chiefs that last time, and it was Jimmy Garoppolo missing Emmanuel Sanders on a deep shot. Does he want to have that same type of thing where it's like, oh, Brock Purdy, only in his second year, he misses some guys, and that's how you lose a game, right? I'm thinking you game plan. This is what he's going to do if he wants to win the Super Bowl. He's going to game plan through CMC. I think they get him heavily involved, like we talked about in our betting episode. For him to score 2 touchdowns in this game, Lewis, is not, not unlikely. And for him to win Super Bowl MVP is also not unlikely. I think they run the ball down the Chiefs' throat. Even if they get down big, I'm praying that Shanahan realizes, even as a 10-point game, we can still run the ball with Christian McCaffrey. And he's just so dynamic. Even, get the play action going and then throw it to him in the flats, wheel routes. He will open up this offense for them against, I have to give my flowers to this Kansas City Chiefs defense. I did disrespect them after that Dolphins game, but they've really shown up in the last 2 weeks. So it's going to take a good effort out of this 49ers team, but I think it's all going to be on the backs of Christian McCaffrey.
I agree with you. I think one of the biggest matchups in this game is how the running game is going to be used by both teams, right? And ultimately, it almost will feel like for me in this game, and this sounds like this is an every game thing for most teams in the NFL, but particularly how these teams want to play. Now, the Chiefs of the past, and the Chiefs that we know with Mahomes and Reed, they play from behind, they air it out. They're this high-flying offense with weapons all around, and they're able to, mount these big comebacks. Patrick Mahomes has a winning record in games where he's trailing in the fourth quarter, which is absurd. But how they wanted to play this season, we've had concerns with the drops by the receivers, all the inconsistency, all the turnovers that have led them to losing games. But after that Raiders loss on Christmas Day, this Chiefs team has found a formula. They're saying, we traded away Tyreek Hill so we could beef up this defense. We could rely on our defense and now put everything on our, Hall of Fame level quarterback, give him some support. And what they did is they leaned into the defense, they leaned into the running game, played a more conservative approach to football, and they've been winning games at a very efficient rate. And, Mahomes has not turned the ball over in a playoff game since that Cincinnati AFC Championship game 2 years ago. Fun fact, that was also the last time he lost a playoff game was against Cincinnati 2 years ago. So there's a strategy, and the 49ers as well. The 49ers want to be able to get up early, establish the run, don't put too much into Brock Purdy's hands, especially against this defense, which causes a lot of turnovers, and play a consistent conservative game, which has burned Shanahan in the past. But this team is built to play with a lead. That's what they've been doing all season long. And what I've seen from the Chiefs in the past few weeks is they like to strike first. And when they do, they put everything on the table, all their trick plays, all their big hitting plays. KELCE, they use a lot of KELCE early on in this game, get us down the field, get us that position, get us that lead, and then we go from there. So, and the thing about this 49ers defense, they have the names up front. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Nicky Bosa, Eric Armstead. They have these guys up front where you say, man, this is an elite front seven. How are you going to be able to run the ball? But they've been getting gashed in these first two playoff games against the Lions and against the Packers, giving up almost 6 yards a carry to running backs. And this Chiefs O-line, even without Joe Thuney, finds a way to turn the ball, move the ball. And, that second half against the Ravens where they really stalled out, at least they were playing conservative, smart football, not putting the ball in danger and relying on their defense against in my opinion, more potent offense in Baltimore than they're facing this week in San Francisco. What scares me about San Francisco versus what scared me about Baltimore is Baltimore had a few really potent weapons. Zay Flowers, who had a big impact, and, if it wasn't for the mistimed turnovers, would have had a great game. And, Lamar, it was just those two guys that the Chiefs could focus in and hone all their resources at. But the 49ers, what makes them such a complete team is they have guys who can impact the game all over the field. You already brought up Christian McCaffrey, but Deebo Samuel as well can flip a game completely over. Brandon Ayuk has been just the fire starter for this team, especially in that Lions game when they really turned things around, was off that dropped interception into Brandon Ayuk's hands that flipped the game on its head. So that is the thing that scares me as a Chiefs fan. But what this 49ers team also will do is give you opportunities for turnovers. And the Chiefs have been such a good team at capitalizing off turnovers, especially in this postseason, and just forcing guys to make mistakes, forcing you to do what's uncomfortable. I think they're going to make Brock Purdy throw the ball. And what I alluded to in the Baltimore game, why I picked the Chiefs in that one, is when you tell yourself, I'm going to run the ball, we want to run the ball, and then you see Patrick Mahomes on the other sideline, it's just hard to stay in that rhythm and that game plan because you know that if it's a stuff on first down, a stuff on second down, third and long, incomplete pass or something unfortunate happens, a sack, and you give him the ball back, that's terrifying for offensive coordinators. So I'm very intrigued to see how Kyle Shanahan's going to play because we remember him as the super aggressive, go for it offensive coordinator when he was in Atlanta. And then he got burned in that Super Bowl. Since then, he's completely shifted to a super conservative, really multifaceted run game approach where he doesn't want to put any pressure on his quarterback to succeed. It's just, ride the bike and let everyone else do their job. So it'll be very interesting to see how Brock and how this offense will play. I want to ask you a question, Laraib. Brock Purdy in this big stage, he's played very well, I would say, given expectation, given what we've seen from 49ers quarterbacks in this system before. He has played very well to get them into the position. But how do you think he will fare in this spotlight against this defense? What is the pressure on Brock Purdy going to be like in this game?
Well, Luis, before I answer that question, I want to talk about these last two 49ers game, kind of alluding to that pressure type situation you're talking about. They were in that Green Bay game down, and it kind of looked like, they are not going to win this game. It looks like the 49ers are going to leave after the first round. And it took a good effort from Brock Purdy, and it took a change of mindset from Kyle Shanahan to say, screw it. It's going to be Brock, and he's going to throw this ball down the field. We're going to get back in this game. And that's what they did, and that's how they won. Then you go back 2 weeks ago to the NFC Championship game. They're down a huge amount in the first half, and you're thinking, how can they keep on running the ball? It's going to be on Brock Purdy's shoulders. And Kyle Shanahan once again said, you know what, all right, we're going to air it out. We're going to start taking some deep shots at Brandon Ayuk, and we're going to start connecting on some of those. And that's what really got them back in that game, even after that bad pick from Brock Purdy in the first half. And now you talk about his pressure mounting up into this game when they've had to claw back in 2 straight games to get to this point, Lewis. How much more tough can it be? Now, of course, you're facing Patrick Mahomes in your first ever Super Bowl. It's going to be a tough task, especially against the Chiefs defense who's playing really well. Chris Jones is going to be, wrecking havoc on that line for them. But I think in a moment like this, when you've had, the season they've had, the injury from his NFC Championship from last year, I think a moment like this, he's going to be calm. He's going to be ready. I think Kyle Shanahan, he hasn't won any Super Bowls, Lewis, but this is now going to be his third one. I think he kind of understands what the aura is going to feel like. He's faced Patrick Mahomes once already before. And so I think he's going to have this team at a calm, cool, collected level. Now, this is the same 49ers team who has a lot of the same pieces that they had the last time they came. George Kittle is going to be back in this one. Deebo Samuel's going to be back in this one. And so I really feel like it's going to be a sense of calm for this 49ers team going into, you could say, the Lions Den in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and then I want to go through position by position, and this really doesn't dictate a football game. But when you really go through it, Chiefs advantage quarterback. I think we can both agree on that. That's not too much. 49ers, same thing, advantage running back. No argument there. I would say 49ers advantage receiver. 49ers advantage offensive line with Tooney out. Obviously, you have to respect, the future Hall of Famer and Trent Williams on that 49ers line. But I think both lines are competent enough to maintain a high level play. So I think that's kind of a push on that front. D line, I mean, you want to give it to the 49ers given the names, but the production is just really wishy-washy. I will say they played a lot better in that second half against Detroit, so I will give them credit. And, you look at your linebackers, 49ers, safeties, no Talanoa Hufanga, so you give that. Honestly, the whole secondary, you give that to the Chiefs. So there's a lot of pushes here. One of the more intriguing matchups is the disparity in the kicking games for both teams because Jake Moody has been, his nickname is Money Moody. He's been very short of money this postseason. He's missed at least a kick or an extra point in his last 8 games, Laraib. Meanwhile, Harrison Butt Kicker, as I like to call him, because all he does is kick butts and kick field goals, has been one of the most efficient kickers in the NFL since he's been the starting kicker over there in Kansas City, which has really helped his team. So a missed kick by the kicker, maybe that forces Kyle Shanahan to be more aggressive in 4th down situations, which is very interesting from a game planning perspective because it's the Super Bowl. This is the highest pressure you can face as a player in any sport in this stage. Single elimination. You win, you're the champs. You win, you go home with nothing. So a lot to, think about in these game planning situations. Are any of the what matchup intrigues you the most in this game?
It has to be the linebacker positions, Lewis. Fred Warner versus Nick Bolton. It's the same Nick Bolton who had a scoop and score in the last year's Super Bowl. Now, far and wide, there's a gap between these two players, but I think it's going to be on this middle of the field defenses to really slow down the rushing attacks and the tight end attacks from both teams.
Yep.
George Kittle versus Travis Kelce, one really good blocker and one fantastic receiver. And I think it's going to be on this middle of the defense, guys. George Karlaftis, who plays middle linebacker as well. He's on a lot of those blitz packages for this Chiefs team. Is he going to, generate some pressure, get Brock Purdy out of the pocket and make him, have an unforced error? And then for Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, it's going to be, how can we slow down Travis Kelce and how can we slow down Isaiah Pacheco? Because like you mentioned, this Chiefs team, it has not been a Mahomian effort in these last couple of playoff games. It's been, we're going to take the dink and dunk and we're going to take the Isaiah Pacheco and Mahomes. You come out early, score 20 points for us, and we'll put the game to bed from this defensive perspective. And so that's what I'm really looking at, the middle of the field. And if, George Karlaftis and Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquill can hold down the middle of the field and stop those crossing routes for Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, it might be a really long game for this 49ers team.
And you think about the threat of Mahomes as a scrambler, especially in these big games when you really see him, convert these long 3rd downs and stuff. When you're playing man, he escapes. You keep a spy on him and risk a single coverage on Travis Kelce with a guy like Fred Warner. Maybe, you think you like that matchup, but then you look to see, against the best front 7 in the entire NFL and the Ravens and see what the Chiefs were able to do and what they weren't able to do in that second half. A lot of interesting matchups come to fruition, and we'll see what the 49ers defensive coordinator, what his plan is. Does he take a few pages out of what Mike McDonald did in that second half against the 49ers or against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship? What can he try to implement? Because they have similar talent. Now, missing Hufanga is a huge blow to that middle of the defense because he was playing, obviously, at an all-pro level. So we'll see how that matchup, because that is a very interesting matchup because neither of these teams, I feel like, are going to be able to utilize the outside weapons as much because that Chiefs secondary is just so elite. But at the same token, the Chiefs receivers are really not too special in this game. So I feel like the matchup will be the middle of the field for both these teams in terms of passing and running the ball. But, I just feel like it's coming down. Time to put our money where our mouth is. Time to make these picks, Laraib. I'm going to start. I'm picking the Chiefs, obviously. I've mentioned all episode long. And I'm picking them to win this game. I think it's going to be the way the Chiefs win. They get out to an early lead. They protect the lead. They take advantage of, turnovers and scoring opportunities when needed. They don't play too aggressive. They lean on their kicker to make huge kicks in huge positions. And I say the Chiefs win this game 23-17.
I'm going to go a little bit more high scoring than you, Lewis. I agree. This Chiefs team is going to come out and get a huge lead in the first half. But Brock Purdy, just like in his last two playoff games, is going to will this 49ers team. Kyle Shanahan will break the curse, and this 49ers team will miss on it or win on a late made field goal by Jake Moody that will only be from 23 yards because we know he can't kick it from further than 30 yards out. And the 49ers will win the Super Bowl 27-24.
And my Super Bowl MVP is, of course, yours truly, Patrick Mahomes.
And my MVP will be Christian McCaffrey with a 2 touchdown performance and 100 all-purpose yards, who will be the reason why the 49ers win Super Bowl 58.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our Super Bowl prediction episode. Obviously, we cannot wait to watch this game, to break it down with you whenever it's over, and so much to get into. Just enjoy the Super Bowl, enjoy this weekend. Just, football excellence, football legacies are cemented here, and we will be here for every single step of the way. This episode will probably be dropping on Friday, so we might be filming, hopefully, a episode on Thursday talking about some of the bigger storylines, macro perspectives coming from this game with two of our other friends. But we'll see how that goes. But this episode will definitely be dropping on Friday, so you will see this before the Super Bowl. Or anything else you want to say before we get out of here today?
No, just make sure you enjoy this game because this will be the last football game for a very long time.
Oh,
And so make sure you take it all in. But I think that's the First and Goal podcast signing off.
Peace.